Hey everybody, it's Chase with AV Pop Culture again, and today we are continuing our spooky season focused content with a look at what I consider to be the top 10 horror 4Ks released by Vinegar Syndrome. So pop that tape in, I got you, let's go do this. All right. So Vinegar Syndrome, we know that they we know that they are great with restorations, they are great with box art, cover art, slips. They are the best in the business when it comes to that, and they can make even the worst low budget schlock obscure film look amazing and tantalizing to get. They sucker me right in. It's like those old days in the VHS, like looking at the VHS tapes in the old mom and pop rental stores with all that straight to video stuff in the early 80s. And you didn't have anything to go on but the box art and maybe a blurb or two on the back, a couple sentences. And Vinegar Syndrome's very good at suckering me into some of those that maybe you don't even really want to watch again. But at the same time, they have released some really, really good ones and some really interesting ones. And they definitely all have some amazing artwork. So these are the top 10 horror 4Ks from Vinegar Syndrome that I have in my collection. Now, there might be a couple more out there that I'm still after, but these are the 10 that I have. And I do have them ranked in order of to my favorite and what I consider the best one. And I'm just going to start. We're going to start with Paul Morrissey's Flesh for Frankenstein. This is a big set here. It's got it in because it's in 3D, right? And this is Udo Kier starring in this movie, and this movie is kind of sick and twisted in a way. It's got lots of like nudity and stuff, but you wouldn't want to see it. I mean, this is like a messed up like take on Frankenstein. But this is an outstanding release by Vinegar Syndrome here. And the big set that it comes with, and this is like the replacement disc. But that's something else too. They'll make things right if they need to replace a disc with anything that's wrong. But it seems like it would be sexy, but it isn't. It is not. It's more gory. I don't know. I can't really think of the right words to describe Flesh for Frankenstein. And that's interesting for me. So we're just gonna go with it's a good release. Now I gotta admit, this is not one that I'm going to like. I watched it when I first got it, and because I hadn't seen it in a really long time, and I haven't even opened the one that's in the 3D package. I hadn't seen it in a really long time, and I was like, "Yep, that's what I remember." It's along the lines of now, Blood for Dracula, which is done by Severin, I think has that out right now. That's a better movie. It's still trippy and a crazy performance by Udo Kier, but it's a better movie overall. But Flesh for Frankenstein is a trip. It's a hell of a set, and I think it's got to be on the top 10, at least of the ones that I have from Vinegar Syndrome. Comes in at number 10. Number 8 is one that I accidentally have 2 of. I don't know how I did that, but I've got 2 of them. And that is Primal Rage. This is a, I think this is like an Italian horror, but it was actually shot in, or it is shot in Florida. And this is kind of like a beast movie. So like it's this virus, this gets out that they're experimenting on the animals or whatever, and they have this stuff that, you know, it causes it causes an outbreak basically, and it's really strange because if I'm not mistaken, um, I mean, yeah, it's even supposed to be at a Florida university, but I am pretty sure that like this is an Italian horror like film crew that did this movie, and it's like it's a serum like a drug for like brain damage, and but it turns everybody infected into like beasts, like mindless killers. So it's pretty trippy. It's almost like a zombie virus, but yeah, Primal Rage. I actually think this is not a bad movie at all, and I don't know how I ended up with it twice. This one's not open because I'm probably going to put this one on eBay because I don't need two of them. Um, and I have the other one right over here. But yeah, good movie, great slipcover, and the 4K on this is really good. Primal Rage comes in at number 9. Number 8 was a recommendation. It was one that I was sure I had seen with my dad a long time ago. Daniel at Cobwebs again. I mentioned him a lot because Daniel got me into like watching him gave me the vibes to want to do this again. Because he introduced me to a lot of movies that I had forgotten that I watched with my dad, and I don't have my dad anymore. Um, and he introduced me to a lot of movies I had watched with him that I hadn't thought about in a long time, and other movies like that I might want to see. And when you get to the point where I have, where you've been into movies so long, and you've in the movie business and everything else, it gets hard to find stuff you haven't seen. So there was one that I thought I had saw with my dad, and when I bought it from Vinegar Syndrome, I realized I had seen it, and that is the Paul Naschy film, the vampire or the werewolf versus the vampire woman. And I actually think there's like a quasi remake of this, done by Naschy, I think. But this is good. So they accidentally awaken this vampire countess, and Paul Naschy is a werewolf, and he basically has to unleash his werewolf, his inner monster, to stop her. And it's a good movie. Paul Naschy does good as a werewolf, better than he does as a vampire, and he plays a vampire in one or two movies. But in this one, he has to become the werewolf to save the day. So to fight off the vampire. So it is a great looking 4K. And it's one that I enjoyed watching again and reliving and remembering watching it with my dad at his parents' house, my grandparents, and they had that old floor model TV that was like a giant 2,000-pound piece of furniture that looked like a dresser, but had a TV in the middle of it and a record player on top. If you open the wood cabinet on top, and like a liquor cabinet in it, and that whole thing. I remember laying in the floor and watching this. So it comes in here on my list at the next spot. 10, 9, 8. All right, coming in at number 7. This is actually one that I had not ever seen. It's a slasher film with some great fall vibes to it. It was one I had not seen, so I got this from Vinegar Syndrome, and I'm talking about Madman. And I'm going to maybe try to hold it right side up. Madman's a great cover. And I know Arrow has now done this too, so it's interesting why they're both doing it. But I'm okay with just the Vinegar Syndrome one. And it is like it is a slasher film, and it's set, like, I believe it's set in New York. It's definitely made by a bunch of New Yorkers. It says one of the quintessential and iconic early slashers. Iconic now, I think maybe it's gotten more of a cult classic. And now that it's getting like all these nice releases from Vinegar Syndrome, from Arrow, more and more people are finding it. I have seen it the one time, but I thought that it was pretty good. And to me, it's just like, it's a standard slasher film. And it's Madman Martz. They tell this story. They're out around a campfire. You got that going. They're telling the story of Madman Martz. You're not supposed to talk about him. He's going to show up. He does show up. He shows up, does some killing, and like every other slasher film. And I think they maybe wanted to make this a franchise. Like, I think they thought they might have had a character they could have done that with, a la Jason, but didn't quite happen. And it's almost like it's almost like he's caught somewhere between being a Sasquatch like thing and this just giant dude in overalls. But not a bad film, not a bad film, and a nice 4K from Vinegar Syndrome. Coming in at number 6 on the list is one that my brother wore out when he could get this on VHS. And I'm talking about Dead Heat with Joe Piscopo. You just can't keep a good cop dead. And this is one that I have on DVD still too. I think an old ass DVD. And great cover art on this thing. Great cover art. So they're basically zombie cops. And that is Treat Williams was like the other like would-be movie star in the or action star in the 80s there, him and Joe Piscopo. And I am at the age where I think of Joe Piscopo too from Saturday Night Live. Detectives Doug Bigelow and Roger Morris have just tried and failed to take down the bad guys. But you know, they end up getting killed. But they don't stay dead. So it is this was a novel take on the zombie film by Oscar nominee Mark Goldblatt's directorial debut. He did not get nominated for an Oscar for this. But definitely a great 4K here, and a lot of fun, and one that, man, I have seen a bunch of times. And Joe Piscopo, worth the price of admission on Dead Heat. All right, coming up next is one that I just talked about a lot recently. This is actually 3 movies in this set, and I'm only really talking about the first one here, although all these I'm sure are good. I am talking, well, I've heard that 3 isn't so much, but I'm talking about The Prophecy. And Christopher Walken, Viggo Mortensen, Elias Kostis. Viggo Mortensen plays one of my favorite devils ever in movies. I mean, just the way he slithers out his words. Christopher Walken plays the Archangel Gabriel, and basically Satan comes up and he teams up Lucifer teams up to basically stop Gabriel, because Gabriel thinks there's like a war going on, and he thinks he's going to make a better heaven, but what it really is going to create another hell, and Lucifer doesn't want that competition. And it's a good movie. If you haven't seen it, I really can't speak. I've seen part 2 like one time, and I have never seen part 3. They all come here in 4K, but I have not seen those enough to talk about them. But part 1 I really like, and Viggo Mortensen is really good in it, and it comes in here on the list at number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All right, coming in at number 4 is one that I got recently is Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. Beautiful 4K here, beautiful 4K. You have Peter Cushing in here. You have Christopher Lee in here. You have a young Donald Sutherland in here. And this is a horror anthology. All these guys are together on this train. They're in this train car. It is full of atmosphere. You have a tarot card reader who's basically telling them their future, and each one of their futures goes into a story. And that's your story in the anthology. And the wraparound story is all of them in this car. And I did at some point kind of see what was coming. but it's very dark. Like it's dark at the end. And I mean, this is an older movie. It's very dark. There's a great story, Christopher Lee's story, The Artist's Hand, where it's like he is an art critic, and I mean he ends up killing a guy who is an artist who made a mockery of him, and the artist's hand keeps coming back to try to kill him, and that's a great story. And I think that's the artist is played by the guy who, and I just blanked on his name, but he played Alfred in the original like Michael Keaton's Batman movies, Tim Burton's. Um, and then the story with not Christopher Lee, with Donald Sutherland is a vampire story, and it's done really well with a twist at the end, and I like it. And then the whole thing ends with a twist that is pretty dark but pretty fitting, and I really did. I liked Dr. Tara's House of Horrors, and the 4K is fantastic on that one. Comes in at number 4. Number 3 is one with my man Bill Moseley and my lady Carolyn Williams in here kicking ass in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And of course, you got Dennis Hopper in this. This is an awesome 4K right here. A great 4K. This thing, there are scenes where where Carolyn Williams is like running for her life in the darkness. And if you go back and like watch it streaming, you watch a DVD, a Blu-ray, anything, it just looks dark out there where she's running. In this, you see like the shades of light in the grass. You see grass blades, all that kind of stuff. The colors pop in this. Of course, you guys know Bill Moseley starred in one of my movies, and I've got to spend a lot of time. Getting to know him, so that's really awesome. So I'm connected to the movie in that way. Dennis Hopper, of course. I actually enjoy Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 more than the original. I know that's sacrilegious, but I do. I just have a lot more fun with it. It borders more on comedy just a little bit. And I mean, Leatherface to me is nowhere near as scary in this one, but the movie is just more fun. And Chop Top Mosley, he still goes by that name on social media. Bill does. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre, great 4K by Vinegar Syndrome, comes in at number 3. Number 2 is one that I was another one of those that I was pretty sure I had seen at some point in my life, but I hadn't seen it in so long. It was like a new watch all over again when I got it. And again, it was Daniel. It's like, dude, you're going to like this movie. As soon as you remember watching it and you watch it, you're going to like it. And I am talking about From Beyond. This thing quickly rose up the ranks of favorite horror films for me. This is very Lovecraft. You've got Barbara Crampton in this, who is beautiful in this movie. And of course, she's in her dominatrix outfit. There's an 88 Films 4K release coming of this that I'm getting to, because it's got some different features. Even though this thing is loaded with features, it does have some different features on it. It does have reversible art, though I do prefer this art. The 88 Films art is better this coming. But this is a nice, huge 3-disc set. It is stacked with extra features here. I got to fix my slip cover. Hold on. Or I mean my internal slip there. It is stacked with extra features. We could be here all day if I was trying to read all those off to you. Vinegar Syndrome is great about that. And I actually need to dive into more of these. There is the unrated director's cut of From Beyond, which if you're going to watch it, of course you're going to watch that. But this is Jeffrey Combs also stars in this. It's very Lovecraft. There's a resonator built that basically allows you to see through the other dimensions, and they realize that all the dimensions are existing side by side. They just can't see each other, which is something I kind of probably believe to an extent. The resonator allows them to see through the other dimensions, but it comes with a cost, because those things over there can see you too. It starts to have effect to change you. crazy Lovecraft monsters, weird body stuff, all kinds of things. But I have a lot of fun with this. I've watched it like 3 or 4 times now. So it comes in, it's a great 4K too. It comes in at number 2. But the unquestioned number 1, it's one of my favorite horror films of all time. It's one of my top 25 favorite films of all time. It doesn't matter what genre. And I think it may be the best 4K that they have released. And it's complete reference quality if you want to talk about that. I'm, of course, talking about the original Amityville Horror. This movie, I mean, you probably know if you're watching this channel all about this. This is based on the true story of the Lutz family that moved into a house in Amityville. And after Ronald DeFeo killed his whole family. And it's about the house, like the spirits, the energy there driving the dad crazy. Bad things start happening. The Lutz family leaves after 28 days. They never come back. This 4K though, this is a movie I've seen so many times, and it was like watching it in a completely different way. This 4K just absolutely blew me away. You've got a lot of extra features on there too, and I need to dive into those as well. But the 4K on this, coming from the original 35 millimeter print, which when you're talking about a movie that's over 45 years old, finding that print and doing that's just awesome to me, man. The work that they do. There is no doubt this is one of the best 4Ks on the market, period, from anybody. It's that good. And this is a classic. I think it's up there in the top 10 classic horror movies of all time for anyone's list. I think it's underrated. And it is the classic haunted house story, Amityville Horror. And it comes in at number 1 on my list of the 10 best horror 4K releases for Vinegar Syndrome. Now, that's of the ones that I have. I do not have everything, obviously. And I know I got The Howling Part 2 is coming. I got a couple of others. There's a couple of others over there that I haven't got to watch yet. But these are pretty big name titles too, which is not something that you always get from Vinegar Syndrome. But I just think these are phenomenal 4Ks, fun watches. And for me right now, they are my top 10. But let me know your top 10. What is your favorite Vinegar Syndrome horror 4K release? Let me know. I'm going to do this for Scream Factory. I'm going to do it for Arrow as well throughout spooky season. So you guys let me know what's in your top 10 horror 4Ks from Vinegar Syndrome. And if you've enjoyed this, we do this kind of stuff all the time. We're focusing on spooky season right now with all of our lists. We do 4K reviews here. We do physical media news, all that kind of stuff from a fan and filmmaker's perspective. I'm a collector like you guys. I love this all so much. I love hanging out with you and talking about all this. And if that's something that you enjoy, please like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. You can consider supporting the channel by joining below at my Patreon or here on YouTube. The links are below. It helps support the channel. You get all kinds of extras. You get your name and lights here on every video, behind the scenes content, special member videos, looks at my filmmaking, all kinds of stuff, free swag, special live streams, all that kind of stuff. But you don't have to do any of that to help me out and be a member of the Pop Culture family. Just like, subscribe, ring that bell. And until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.